The following program is furnished by The Truth About Your Future, LLC. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station. This information is education and not financial advice. Consult a financial advisor before investing.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman is brought to you by Bitwise, the world's largest crypto index fund manager. As crypto grows, Bitwise believes everyone should have a simple and familiar way to access it. Bitwise makes crypto clear. BitwiseInvestments.com. And by Global X ETFs. For more than a decade, Global X ETFs has been dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions. Learn more at globalxetfs.com. And by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100, Invesco.com, and by Edelman Financial Engines. Rick Edelman is a board member, consultant, shareholder, and client of EFE, but EFE is unaffiliated and has no say over the content of The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
This is where technology, innovation, and personal finance come together.
This is The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
And now your host, Rick Edelman.
And a very happy New Year's weekend to you. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. This program covers the personal finance and investment topics that matter most, with a little entertainment thrown in too, if we get lucky. Longevity, retirement security, exponential technologies, blockchain and digital assets, and health and wellness. And to illustrate for you the astonishing conversations we're going to have, let me start you off with pizza. For the last 20 years, New Yorkers could buy a slice of pizza for 99 cents. Not anymore. Inflation is skyrocketing, and it's now hit pizza in New York. The prices of pizza boxes, pepperoni, flour, and oil, they're all skyrocketing. And so the price of a slice of pizza in Manhattan is now $1.50. It's not just pizza slices that are higher, so are the stock indexes. They ended last year at all-time highs. But we got to make sure we're not getting too cocky about this. Number one, nearly 1,400 stocks ended last year at their lowest levels of the year. Of the S&P 500, nearly half, 210 stocks, are down 10% or more below their 52-week highs. On the NASDAQ, it's even worse. 1,300 stocks, down 50% or more from their 21 high. And of all the public stocks in this country, about 3,000 of them, 80% are down at least 10%. Only 5 stocks produced more than half the gains of the S&P 500 since last April. What are those 5 stocks? Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla, and Alphabet, the parent of Google. Yeah, last year was great for the S&P 500. It ended the year up over 26%. That's after 2020 with a 16% gain, 2019 with a 29% gain. The last 3 years, the S&P 500 was up over 24% per year. That's astonishing. That's 3 times better than the S&P's average for the last nearly 65 years. Are we going to see those kinds of returns this year? Well, not according to the chief investment officer of Neuberger Berman. Joseph Amato says, quote, "You're not going to see that kind of market performance in 2022. In fact, he's not alone. The Wall Street Journal surveyed 13 major banks and financial firms and asked, what's their prediction for the S&P 500 this year? You know what their average was? 4.5%. The highest was BMO with a 12% prediction. The worst, Morgan Stanley is now saying the stock market's going to fall 7% in 2022. Well, if you don't like the idea of investing in stocks, maybe you want to buy bonds? Well, I'm not so sure about that. A third of the bonds that were issued last year were issued by companies who are in so much debt, they've exceeded the threshold that was set by the Federal Reserve, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and the FDIC. They set that limit back in 2013 to prevent another 2008 credit crisis. 33% of the companies that issued bonds last year had a debt-to-earnings ratio that was higher than at any time since 2005. Well, we know what happened in the years following '05, right? Well, consider the president of Better Markets. His name is Dennis Kelleher. He said, quote, "There's an insane amount of leverage in the system. It's created a ticking time bomb." Well, maybe you're looking for alternatives then if the stock market is going to be projected to earn a meager single-digit return and the bond market's a ticking time bomb. Well, maybe you want to invest in champagne. Yeah, do you know there's something called the Champagne 50 Index? I don't know if you want to invest in that or not, but it's an index of vintage champagnes. Dom Perignon 2008, the Krug 2000. That index rose 46% last year, way outperforming the global stock market. Here's my point. There's a lot more to the investing world these days than stocks and bonds and cash. There's a lot more. In fact, in my view, the most exciting new asset class is crypto, digital assets. I've been talking about this for a long time, and I just want you to know there's a big reason that I'm a big fan of investing in digital assets. Bill Gurley is now doing the same. He's a venture capitalist, best known for his early investment back in 2011 of Uber, which is now worth $80 billion. Bill Miller, the billionaire fund manager, he owns 1.5 million shares of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. The symbol is GBTC. The founder of Interactive Brokers recently announced that he's bought Bitcoin. And you know who else is buying Bitcoin? Morgan Stanley. They bought 6.5 million shares of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. That symbol again, GBTC. They bought it for a dozen of its mutual funds. So if you own a Morgan Stanley mutual fund, you may now own the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Morgan Stanley is now the second largest holder of that investment. Who's the largest? ARK Investments. They own 9 million shares. But there are other major fund companies engaging in Bitcoin and digital assets as well. BlackRock invested $400 million in Marathon Digital and Riot Blockchain. They're the world's biggest money manager with $9 trillion in assets. They spread the shares they bought over hundreds of their mutual funds and iShares ETFs. Fidelity did the same. They have a 7.5% stake in Marathon Digital, a Bitcoin mining company. So you've got to wonder, with everybody seemingly on Wall Street suddenly recognizing, and in many cases not so suddenly, that Bitcoin is a reasonable asset class to invest in, you've got to ask yourself, do you own it? Is your financial advisor recommending it? Well, in a study of investors who have $250,000 in investable assets or more, who have a financial advisor, does that sound like someone you know? And who fired their advisor and switched to another advisor, half of them say that the reason they switched advisors is because of their interest in crypto, because they want to invest in digital assets and their current advisor isn't helping them do it. If you want to invest in digital assets like me, let me make it real easy for you. My wife Jean and I invested in the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, symbol BITW. It's the first and still the biggest crypto index fund. Bitwise is a sponsor of this program, and I'm also an investor in Bitwise. That's how much I like this company. The Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, it owns the 10 largest digital assets, and they rebalance monthly. So you don't have to decide what to buy or when to rebalance. Bitwise does it all for you. Very simple, very easy. Bitwise wants digital assets to be available to everyone, and that's why they work closely both with individual investors as well as financial advisors and institutions across the country. Crypto is all Bitwise does. They've got a 4-year track record, which makes them one of the oldest players in this new emerging asset class, with 50 employees devoted entirely to digital assets and $2 billion in assets under management. I believe strongly in owning a diversified portfolio, and that means owning digital assets as part of my diversification. The Bitwise Crypto 10 Index Fund, symbol BITW. It's available everywhere that you get your investments, including from your financial advisor. And I'm happy to tell you that support for this radio show and podcast also comes from Invesco QQQ. Let me ask you this. What do all the greatest innovations have in common? Agents of change. Ordinary people who shape the future by putting their money behind the right ideas. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100. So you don't have to be an innovator to create what comes next. You can instead simply become an agent of change, an agent of innovation. And you can do it with the Invesco QQQ. Learn more about Invesco.com/QQQ. Remember, of course, there are risks when investing in ETFs, including possibly the loss of money. ETF risks, well, they're similar to those of stocks. And when you invest in the tech sector, you're subject to greater risk and more volatility than in ordinary diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't directly invest into an index, so before investing, carefully read and consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in the prospectus available at Invesco.com from Invesco Distributors, Inc. In fact, I'm such a fan of the investment sector of digital assets and technology overall. If my financial advisor didn't know anything about digital assets, I'd find one who does. In fact, that's why I created the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals, DACFP, DACFP. We teach financial advisors about blockchain and digital assets, and they can earn their certificate in blockchain and digital assets, proving that they've got the knowledge they need to give you the advice you need about this new asset class. So if you're interested in investing in digital assets, you can find advisors who have attained their certificate in blockchain and digital assets. All you got to do is go to the advisor directory at dacfp.com, DACFP.com. It's a free service I've created for you, and it will connect you with financial advisors across the country who can help you. These are revolutionary new investment opportunities, and you can get the advice you need from an advisor who holds the certificate in blockchain and digital assets at dacfp.com, DACFP.com. Oh, and by the way, in case you're wondering, more than 100 of the financial advisors at Edelman Financial Engines have obtained their certificate in blockchain and digital assets. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. We need to talk about the issue of aging and how it impacts our life and what it means for our life. And there is absolutely nobody better as the very first guest for The Truth About Your Future than Dr. Ken Dykewald. Ken, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Rick, and congratulations to you and Jean for graduating, and now you're moving on to your new chapter, and I got to tell you how honored I am to be your first guest.
Ken, for 47 years, has emerged as North America's foremost visionary and original thinker on aging, our lifestyles, marketing, healthcare, economics, implications on the workforce. Ken is a psychologist, gerontologist, the best-selling author of 18 books on aging-related issues. Most recently, What Retirees Want, a holistic view of life's third age, and it's a #1 bestseller. Now, I'm at age 63, having achieved financial success and career success, reputational success. That's traditionally the time to kick back, relax, sit in the Barcalanger, watch Netflix, maybe pick up the game of golf or two, and just hang out and enjoy myself. Go to Florida, because I think it's a law, isn't it? When you're 65, you got to go to Florida. Instead, Jean and I have built this new company, The Truth About Your Future, which is a multimedia company doing this radio show, podcast, videocast. Just written my new book, number 11, on crypto that comes out in May. We're launching a new subscription monthly newsletter next month. We're doing consulting around the country, public speaking, webinars. Have a major new company in the space of digital assets called DACFP.com. We have an Alzheimer's research company. We're doing a lot of philanthropy with Retirement Security and Funding Our Future Coalition, and so on. Ken, here's my question for you. Am I out of my mind?
I mean, any more than you've ever been?
I mean, why am I doing all these things at age 63? This is when I'm supposed to sit back, relax, and just, go on a cruise.
Yeah, so here's what's happening. When our grandparents reached their 60th birthday, they pretty well thought they were in the kind of bottom of the ninth, that it was a time to kind of wind it up. You had a few years before your batteries wore out, and that was the end of that. Today, basically because of extraordinary breakthroughs that have already occurred in healthcare, but some wild ones that are coming in the next decade or so, living to 90 or 100 or even 120 is going to become commonplace. So at 60, you're kind of still in the middle of the game. Not only that, but usually at around 60, you're a little smarter than you used to be. You know what you like better than you used to. You have a feeling for what would give you a sense of purpose. Plus, you have more control, Rick. There's a lot more sort of mastery of all this time affluence. So you can build kind of a portfolio at 60. Maybe you do play golf. Maybe you go fishing. Maybe you sleep late a few days. But maybe also you start a new business, write a new book, or for some people, fall in love again if they've been widowed or divorced. I think what we're seeing is an absolutely unique revolution that folks are kind of waking up in their 60s or 70s and are saying, I still got a lot of engine in me, still got a lot of firepower. Maybe I don't want to just kind of roll over and go off the playing field. I want to fire some things up. And I would tell you that one of the big differences is that when we're young, we're picking careers that we think will make our parents proud, or we think will kind of get us going in the right direction to compete with our peers. But when you grow up and you have a little more emotional intelligence, you can make selections that are often a little more true to who you really are and what you really want to be doing. When you're young, you may be sharp, you may be driven, you may be attractive, you may be all sorts of things we associate with young people. But you circle the sun a few dozen times and you start to get a little wisdom. You kind of know how things work. You kind of know how to make successes happen. You kind of know who to call when you need help or when you need a good idea. And so what you're seeing, and it doesn't land on the cover of the magazines because we like to put the young tech entrepreneurs on magazine covers, but the most successful entrepreneurs over the last decade have been over the age of 50. And it's because exactly what you say. They know how to reinvent themselves, they know how to get things done, and they got the firepower to pull it off because they've got a little bit more resilience and a little bit more wisdom. Something that many younger people would like to have, and one day they will, but don't have so much of right now. We did research and we asked older adults, what was the most important ingredient in living a successful and purposeful maturity? And all over the world, the same answer came back, and that is friends and loved ones. So people who are retiring or who are of that age, but really they may be reinventing themselves, in addition to wanting to have purpose and be included and be respected and take good care of their body, they want to build a new ecosystem of friends and relations that'll be fitting for the years to come.
In other words, it isn't buying stuff, it's the memories and experiences that we want.
It's an incredibly important point because it has an impact on the marketplace as well. When we're younger, we think we need one of those and two of these, and we need a refrigerator, and we're kind of filling up our house with the stuff we think will make us happy. But after you've lost a parent, or you've been through a medical crisis, or you've had success or failure, you begin to realize that what really is valuable in life is not the stuff, but it's the experiences you have with somebody you love, your spouse, with your kids, with friends. And so I think when this COVID situation settles down even further, you're going to see travel and experiential appetites come alive again. It also means that people are going to buy things because of the experiences they will provide. And so I think you're going to see us move from a material-based economy to an experiential-based economy as more of us grow into our mature years, treasuring that.
You have a chapter in your book, What Retirees Want, called Ageism Sucks.
Publisher didn't want me to use that title, but I said, hey, ageism does suck. So let's just say it like it is. Here's the problem, that Madison Avenue and many companies that you relate to that I have advised are populated by young people who think young people are cool and with it and have got some money to spend. And besides, everybody wants to be a young person, they believe. Well, maybe in the past, older people were frugal, they were set in their ways, they weren't trying new things. But today's 50 and 60 and 70-year-old are trying new things all over the place. They're renovating their homes, they're buying new cars, they're traveling to different parts of the world, they're going back to school, they're making new friends, they're learning technologies, they can afford these technologies. By the way, young people, on the other hand, are broke right now and have been made more broke by COVID. In fact, the number one most common living arrangement for someone 18 to 34 years old last year in America was living at home with their mom and dad. So it turns out that you can focus a lot on young people and glamorize them and disrespect older people. And I can tell you that I think we'd do better if we had multi-generational presence in our ads. But when you reach 50 or 60 or 70, particularly women, the women of our generation are the most highly educated, the most extraordinary generation of women ever, most likely to have had career pursuits. You don't want to disrespect these women by making fun of their age. No, 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 no. That ageism is not a wise thing to do. We got to put an end to that ageism.
And what it means is you should champion your age, the fact that you are older. That means you are wiser, you are wealthier, you have more to give, you have more to look forward to. And we need to recognize that the future is exciting, not something to be fearful about. It's a journey we're going to be taking here on The Truth About Your Future, because your future is going to be long and we need to figure it out. And we're going to do that together with the help of some very special people, including my good friend, Dr. Ken Dykewald, the CEO and founder of AgeWave. Ken, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the kickoff for this brand new radio and podcast series.
Thank you for the honor of inviting me to be a guest of yours, and I wish you all the best with this new chapter in your life. How exciting.
Thank you, Ken. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future. To hear the entire conversation with Ken Dykewald, just go to thetruthayf.com. Coming up right after this program, you'll hear a new program called Everyday Wealth, brought to you by Edelman Financial Engines, a sponsor of this program and podcast. Everyday Wealth is featuring Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatzky. Soledad is a Peabody Award-winning journalist. Gene Chatzky is a best-selling financial writer. They explore the financial decisions you face and how those decisions affect your life. They're joined each week by financial planners from Edelman Financial Engines and other industry experts to share the insights and strategies you need, from managing your wealth and generational planning to retirement income, tax-efficient investing, and more. So stay tuned right here for Everyday Wealth. And for more information about that program, visit everydaywealth.com/radio. The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman and Edelman Financial Engines are not affiliated. You know, I feel really strongly about exponential technologies, and one of the greatest aspects of this program now is that I get to spend more and more time talking with you about the impact of these technologies and how they're affecting your personal finances and the investment opportunities that are available to you. And it's also why I asked Global X ETFs to be a sponsor of this broadcast. I'm a big fan of Global X, and now I get to talk with you specifically about the investments that Gene and I personally own, and the investments that we like and why we like them. Global X offers more than 30 ETFs devoted to exponential technologies, what they call thematic growth. And my wife and I, we own several of them. I'm convinced that this investment theme belongs in our diversified portfolio. Well, where did we start? Well, first we considered the options, such as longevity and its impact on our changing demographics, and how that is going to force us to alter our nation's infrastructure. And we looked at green energy, blockchain, lithium battery technology, solar energy, and so much more. Global X has been managing exponential technology strategies for more than a decade, and they publish research across their entire range of ETFs. And you can read all that research and learn more at globalxetfs.com, or simply ask your financial advisor about Global X ETFs. Stay with us for more here on The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
The information you need to plan for the tomorrow you want.
This is The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
You're listening to The Truth About Your Future. I'm Rick Edelman, and I want to tell you where Gene and I have our IRA accounts. They're with Choice, and I've asked them to advertise on this show so I can tell you about them. Choice is an IRA custodian. They're changing the way Americans save for retirement. Choice lets you invest in Bitcoin, crypto, and other alternative assets inside your IRA. Yeah, for both deductible and Roth IRAs at Choice, you can buy real Bitcoin or any of 22 other digital assets. In your Choice IRA account, you can also buy stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, gold, real estate, you name it, all in a single retirement account. There are no hidden fees or account minimums, and you get more control over your retirement savings. You can also access Choice through your financial advisor. So tell your advisor to get set up with Choice so they can help you access Bitcoin and other alternative assets in your retirement account. Head on over to their website, retirewithchoice.com/Rick. That's retirewithchoice.com/Rick. Welcome back to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. I'm really excited to tell you that 401k Specialist magazine has just released its rankings of the top 5 retirement plan podcasts of 2021, and I was named one of the 5. Well, I'm just thrilled to be able to continue delivering to you the information, education that you need in the field of personal finance. And I'm really glad that you respond so well to it. And I make money for listeners in ways I never even guessed. I got an email from Bill in Columbus, Ohio this past week, and he said, Rick, I'm saving money just by listening to your show. I leave home and I arrive at work with about 20 minutes left in your show. So now I drive slower so I can hear your entire show. And I have found that my gas mileage has gone from 33 miles a gallon to 44 miles a gallon. That's a nice little savings. Yeah, I think that's really great, Bill, that I'm helping you cut your fuel expenses so much. But on the other hand, I think you're going to get fired. I'm making you late for work. Well, whatever. I'm glad that Bill's listening to the entire program. And if you run into a challenge where you can't sit in your car and in the parking lot listening to the whole program, just tune to the podcast. The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman is now a podcast, and you can download it at thetruthayf.com or anywhere that you download your podcasts. Are you confused about Bitcoin? Well, one of the reasons so many people are confused is that there are 2 Bitcoins. Well, okay, there's really only one, but they come off as 2. There's Bitcoin with a capital B and Bitcoin with a lowercase b. What am I talking about? Well, there's the Bitcoin network, capital B. The network is the blockchain technology that is allowing the Bitcoin coin, the asset, to exist. The coin is Bitcoin lowercase b. The network it runs on is Bitcoin, the uppercase b. I sure wish that when Satoshi Nakamoto invented Bitcoin, that Satoshi had chosen 2 different words to describe these 2 different things, but unfortunately, we're not so lucky. So there's Bitcoin, capital B, and Bitcoin, lowercase b. You buy a little b Bitcoin, and you do it on the big B Bitcoin network. Got it? Maybe not. I've been providing financial advice and financial education on the radio for more than 30 years. When I started back in the 1980s, nobody had ever even heard of financial planning. But today, it's ubiquitous. Everyone today knows the need to save. Everyone who can afford to save for the future is saving. I really don't think you need a radio show anymore to tell you, you need a will. You got that. You know that. But what you do need to know is what's coming next. And in the field of personal finance, there are 5 subjects that matter most today: longevity, retirement security, exponential technologies, blockchain and digital assets, and health and wellness. First, you're probably going to live to age 100 and beyond. And that means you have to rethink everything that you thought you knew about college and career, and rethink retirement and leisure. And if you're going to live that long, will your money last as long as you do? That means retirement security is a huge issue because we have a major retirement crisis in this country, with millions of Americans reaching age 65 completely unprepared. Oh, that's not a problem for you. You've been fortunate and hardworking. And you've scrimped and saved, and you've sacrificed your entire career. And you'll reach retirement in fine financial shape, I'm sure. But all that means is that the government is going to turn to you for the money they need to pay for the millions of Americans who didn't save. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are all under huge pressure. The money's got to come from somewhere. So either you enter retirement without money, that's a crisis, or you have money and you'll need to know how to protect it from the tax collector. And where will you invest that money? your money's going to have to last as long as you do. Well, forget about bonds. Interest rates are so low right now. And if interest rates go up, the value of your bonds will go down. So forget about bonds. Stocks, they're under real pressure. And as we talked about earlier in the program, not likely to produce the double-digit returns this year that you're going to need. So the answer, my view, exponential technologies, AI, robotics, 3D printing, big data, machine learning, computer systems and networks, biotech, bioinformatics, neuroscience, fintech, edtech, agritech. The companies in these fields are literally building the future, and they offer us the potential for investment returns that I don't think are available anywhere else. And the biggest opportunity in this area, in my view, blockchain and digital assets, the most revolutionary new innovation since the invention of the internet itself. And finally, if you're going to live to age 100, you better take care of your body and your brain, because we only got one of each, and they're going to be with us for as long as we're around. So health and wellness rounds out our list of the 5 topics that matter most. And to give you all this content and more, that's what this radio show and podcast are all about, giving you the information that you're not getting anywhere else. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. In the United States right now, households headed by people 55 and above have $92 trillion of assets, 69% of the country's entire wealth. Think about that for a minute. Those over 55 are not 69% of the population, but they're 69% of the wealth of the population. Well, why is that? It's real simple. For generations, the only way that you could create wealth was to own assets. And the only way you could own assets was if you had the money to buy assets. In other words, the only way to get rich was to already be rich. And most folks, if you go back over the last 50 years, take a look at the Forbes 400, the ranking of the richest people in America. Go back to the rankings in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. A whole lot of the people who were the richest were people who inherited their wealth. Well, that means the only way you were going to get rich in America was to already be rich. And think about it even in the stock market. When I started out in the 1980s, if you wanted to buy a share of stock, you had to buy something that was called a round lot, meaning you had to buy 100 shares. You couldn't just buy one share. You had to buy 100 shares of stock. Well, think about it. If that stock was $25 and you had to buy 100 of them, you needed $2,500 to be able to buy stocks. And that was just one stock. What if you wanted a diversified portfolio? If you wanted to own 10 stocks, you would need $25,000. And I'm talking the 1980s. 25 grand was an awful lot of money. How many people you know in their 20s? How many low-income households do you know who have the ability to invest $25,000 into the stock market? Not very many, right? And that means the only people who could afford to do this were people who already had a lot of money. It allowed the rich to get richer. And oh, by the way, when you did buy those stocks, you paid a commission, 1.5% to buy and another 1.5% to sell, 3% round trip commission costs. And those commissions were regulated. They were identical at every single firm until 1975. So it was kind of crazy. You needed an awful lot of money to buy stocks, and then you were going to pay an awful lot of money in commissions to do so. Fast forward to today. Today, thanks to technology, we have demonetized, we have democratized Wall Street. You no longer need $25,000. You don't have to buy a round lot anymore. You can buy an individual share. In fact, you can buy a fraction of a share. And you can do it commission-free. We have demonetized the cost of investing, and that has made it democratized. Everybody, everywhere, can now participate in the financial markets and grow wealth in a way that they never had access to before. So it's really very exciting. Just imagine if everybody in America had access to the stock market, how this could have an entire new array of people engaging in the stock market. And with so many more people engaging, so many more buyers, so much more demand, well, what happens when the demand of an asset rises? The asset price typically rises with it. It's the rising tide lifting all boats. Not only do lower income Americans, younger Americans grow their wealth, we also grow the wealth of everybody else who's invested as well. We all do well by doing good. Hey, speaking of this, if you know anyone who's new at this, who wants to be a new investor, you can help make it easier for them to get started with the new Schwab Starter Kit. New investors can open an account with Schwab. They get $50 when they do so that they can split across the top 5 stocks by market cap in the S&P 500. That's companies even new folks to the markets actually recognize, companies like Amazon, Apple, and Google. Schwab also offers videos and guides and other helpful tools, and investment professionals 24/7 are available to answer their questions. If you want to see the current top 5 stocks and learn more about the Schwab Starter Kit, just go to schwab.com/starter kit. I'm proud that Schwab is another sponsor of this radio show and podcast. So we have an issue in both directions. We need to help younger people get started with investing. Good news is it's easier, faster, cheaper, safer than ever before. We also need to help older people manage their investments because, well, they're the ones with almost all the money that there is in this country. The spectrum is wide, and it's getting wider, and it's also skewing older. We're very likely to live a whole lot longer than we ever thought. 90s, age 100, and beyond. Why? And I think that there was a fundamental assumption, a fundamental understanding that the reason we're living longer is because of all of the advances in medicine and neuroscience, artificial intelligence, nanotech, big data. We even have robots performing surgery these days. That's why I'm so pumped about exponential technologies. Here's one example. A team affiliated with the Human Brain Project have created a new algorithm and added it to a neuromorphic computer chip, and it runs 1,000 times faster than the human brain. In a test, it classified 10,000 samples in just 1 second with 97% accuracy, with extremely low energy consumption. This is going to lead to faster, better computers, and it's going to come before we know it. These innovations are fundamentally altering every aspect of life on our planet and creating unprecedented new investment opportunities. That's why I asked Global X ETFs to be a sponsor of this radio show and podcast. I want you to be aware of the kinds of investment opportunities that they make available. I'm a big fan of Global X, and I want you to know about them. They offer more than 30 ETFs devoted to exponential technologies, what they call thematic growth. My wife Jean and I own several of their funds. I'm convinced that this investment theme belongs in our diversified portfolio. And where did we start? Well, first we considered the options, longevity, and its impact on our changing demographics, how this is forcing us to alter our nation's infrastructure, green energy, blockchain, lithium battery technology, solar energy, and so much more. Global X has been managing exponential technology strategies for more than a decade. They publish research available to you across their entire range of ETFs. And you can get all that research and learn more at globalxetfs.com or ask your financial advisor about Global X ETFs. And in the field of exponential technologies, there's no bigger investment opportunity, in my opinion, than digital assets. If you want to invest in digital assets like me, it's really easy nowadays. My wife Jean and I invested in the Bitwise 10 crypto index fund, symbol BITW. It's the first and still the biggest crypto index fund. Bitwise is a sponsor of this program along with Global X, and I'm also an investor in Bitwise. That's how much I like the company. The Bitwise 10 crypto index fund owns the 10 largest digital assets. They rebalance monthly, so I don't have to decide what to buy or when to rebalance. Bitwise does it all for me. They'll do it all for you as well. Very simple, very easy. Bitwise wants digital assets to be available to everyone, and that's why they work closely with individual investors as well as with financial advisors and financial institutions across the country. Crypto is all Bitwise does. They've got a 4-year track record, and that makes them one of the oldest players in this new emerging asset class. 50 employees devoted entirely to digital assets, $2 billion in assets under management. I believe strongly in owning a diversified portfolio. That means owning digital assets as part of that portfolio. The Bitwise Crypto 10 Index Fund, symbol BITW. Available everywhere you get your investments, including from your financial advisor. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. I want you to know that I'm hosting a webinar for financial advisors this Wednesday, January 5th, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And individual investors are invited too. The event's free, sponsored by Rubicon Crypto, and I'm going to be interviewing Rubicon's CEO, Greg Johnson. The event is being presented by DACFP, the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals. I founded DACFP at dacfp.com to teach financial advisors everything they need to know about blockchain and digital assets. And we routinely host webinars like this for advisors. And now you can come too. You'll get an advisor's view of crypto, and you'll learn about the services that Rubicon provides to individual investors as well. Financial advisors get continuing education credits, which they need to maintain their professional designations. The webinar is this Wednesday, January 5th, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, and you can register for free at dacfp.com, DACFP.com. And by the way, if you'd like to see my predictions for the world of blockchain and digital assets, you can get that at thetruthayf.com, thetruthaboutyourfuture.com. Time now for everybody's favorite segment of the program, a visit by my wife, Jean Edelman. Jean, a student of the healing arts, Reiki, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, and of course, macrobiotic and plant-based cooking. Here's Jean.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year on our first weekend of our brand new year. Today, I just want to talk about emotions. I know that a lot of us have planned for transitions in our lives, big transitions financially, but have we thought about the emotional piece to large and big transitions in our life? And so today I want to talk about honoring the emotions that are with us when we make big transitions in our life. When I was young, I had asthma. It would flare up when life around me felt out of control. If you have asthma or you had asthma growing up, you know how it affects our ability to function. We need to rest. We need to stay quiet. We need to stay still because exertion stresses our body and our breathing. When we're young, we don't have the tools to process life, to speak up, to understand the world around us. Personally, as I gained the knowledge and tools to be in my life, I grew out of my asthma. Fast forward to now. Age 62, year 2021, my asthma flared up. I am experiencing the most emotional event in decades in my life, leaving our company. Yes, it was inevitable. Yes, it's exciting. Yes, we have so much to teach and share outside the box of the company. Yes, yes, yes. Yet, my body is screaming at me to honor the emotions I am feeling. Not to shove them under the rug and just say everything's going to be okay. And so I share this with you. I, Jean Marie Ann McMiniman Edelman, I am honoring the emotions of loss, lack of control, fear of the unknown. I'm honoring these emotions because I can begin to move forward. I think we've all felt and experienced these emotions. COVID has brought us much loss. We absolutely feel the lack of control and the fear of the unknown. Nothing is as it was, and there's much change in the future. We can all honor these emotions and thank them. We don't want to become them. That's the difference. Thank them and release them. And then another layer of our inner knowing will just vanish, and we can get to know ourselves much better. As for me, as soon as I stopped, listened, and labeled the emotions, my asthma lightened up. As soon as I journaled and walked with these emotions in the front of my mind, my asthma lightened up. My footnote: when my asthma did flare up, number one, I couldn't believe it. But I did know that it was emotion-driven. Number two, I immediately started taking extra care of myself. Number three, I did test for COVID. And number four, I do know myself well enough that if something had shifted in what I know from my past, I would have gone to the doctor. And so, to continue the story, our emotions run deep. Let's all honor each other and what we're feeling. And so, can you guess my word of the week? My word of the week is honor. The H is for happy. We're all looking for happiness. The negative emotions can get in the way, but the healthiest thing to do is to look them in the eye, say thank you, and say goodbye, because they no longer serve us. O is for opportunity. Every moment in our life is an opportunity to grow and learn about ourselves, to get stronger, confident in what we need to be a happy human being. N is for nourish. When we're not feeling well physically or mentally, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to choose foods that are whole and healthy. When our body is fighting off something, no sugar, no soft drinks, no white flour, no processed foods. We need nourishing soups with lots of veggies and throw in some plant-based meals, and we will feel better. O is for overcome, because we can overcome anything when we put our mind to it. Stop and listen to the answers, and they will appear. R is for refresh. Sometimes our body's just asking for a break. We need to stop, refresh, reboot, restore. In traditional Chinese medicine, winter is the time to be quiet, to hibernate, just like the bears, to rest, so that when the spring rolls around, we're ready for that new energy of the season. So make time to rest. We are all in this together. We all feel, we all have these emotions. Let's honor each other. Let's honor whatever's coming up for us in the new year. Happy 2022.
That was Gene Edelman here on The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. And yeah, it still drives me crazy. I do an entire 1-hour show, but everybody's favorite segment is that provided by Gene. What do all of the greatest innovations have in common? Agents of change. Ordinary people who shape the future by putting their money behind the right ideas. Invesco QQQ is an ETF that allows you to access innovators of the NASDAQ 100. So you don't have to be an inventor to help create what's coming next. You can become an agent of change, an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. You can learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. Remember, there are risks when investing in ETFs, including the possible loss of money. ETF risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly in an index, so before investing, carefully read and consider the fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more. It's all on the prospectus at Invesco.com, Invesco Distributors, Inc. Well, that's it for the time we have on this program. Coming up next, a program brought to you by a sponsor of this show, Edelman Financial Engines. They have their own show and podcast, and it starts right after the news. Their show is called Everyday Wealth and features Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatzky. Soledad is a Peabody Award-winning journalist. Gene Chatzky is a best-selling financial writer. They explore the financial decisions you face and how those decisions affect your life. They're joined each week by financial planners from Edelman Financial Engines and other industry experts to share the insights and strategies you need. From managing your wealth and generational planning to retirement income, tax-efficient investing, and more. So stay tuned right here for Everyday Wealth. And for more information about that program, visit everydaywealth.com/radio. The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman and Edelman Financial Engines are not affiliated. Remember, if you missed any part of today's program or to capture the full-length conversations I've had with our guests this week, go to thetruthayf.com. The Truth AYF? That's short for About Your Future. thetruthayf.com. And download the podcast. I'm Rick Edelman. See you next week.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman has been brought to you by Bitwise, the world's largest crypto index fund manager. As crypto grows, Bitwise believes everyone should have a simple and familiar way to access it. Bitwise makes crypto clear. BitwiseInvestments.com. And by Global X ETFs. For more than a decade, Global X ETFs has been dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions. Learn more at globalxetfs.com. And by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100. Invesco.com. Stay tuned for Everyday Wealth with Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatsky from Edelman Financial Engines. Everydaywealth.com/radio. EFE and The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman are unaffiliated entities.
Get the truth about your future every weekend with Rick Edelman. It's thetruthayf.com.